Ethicist. On average, animals raised on grain must be fed 16 pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of meat. Okay. Lots of plant produce right there to make 1 pound of meat. A pound of meat is more nutritious for humans than a pound of grain. All right, you get more out of it. Maybe you get like all the amino acids, right? It's like a complete protein. You don't get that with grain. But 16 pounds of grain could feed many more people than could a pound of meat. Fair enough. Yeah, seems like a lot more calories. With grain yields leveling off, large areas of farmland going out of production each year, and the population rapidly expanding. Whoa, we got a lot going on. So, sorry, grain yields are not increasing. They're leveling off. So we get the same amount of grain per farmland. Large areas of farmland are actually going out of production. Wow. So the farmland we have is not getting more productive, and the farmland we have is also decreasing. That's not good. And the population is rapidly expanding. Also not good. Okay, I had to go back and read those 3 claims and think about them and visualize them. If you got them as you were reading, awesome. But it doesn't hurt to go back and clarify. Okay, what exactly is happening here? What is the person going to say now? We must accept the fact that consumption of meat will soon be morally unacceptable. All right, so I have to accept that we have all these problems, that it sounds like basically food production is on the down, is going down, and population is going up. Does that mean that the consumption of meat will soon be morally unacceptable? It certainly could be. It could be that people are like, hey, you're wasting so much food. Stop it. Shame on you. You shouldn't eat it. But we don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, maybe people start worshiping those who can afford meat. I know that's a weird thing to say, but human history has had a lot of weird behavior. And so maybe this becomes cool. Meat becomes cool because it's so rare. It doesn't become morally unacceptable. I have no idea. Again, I'm not saying about what should happen. I'm just saying this argument sucks because it's trying to predict the future, and I don't necessarily know how people are going to react to this. The question says, which one of the following, if true, would most weaken the ethicist argument? Okay, I think the ethicist has a reasonable chance of being correct, but we don't know for sure. So I'm going to look for something that suggests in the future, meat is not actually morally unacceptable. It's totally fine. What could make it totally fine? A, even though it has been established that a vegetarian diet can be healthy, many people prefer to eat meat and are willing to pay for it. Sure, that's true now, but in the future, when it becomes really hard to produce meat, it still could become morally unacceptable. So I don't think this is a great answer. All it's telling me about is right now. I want to know about what's going to happen between now and the future. B, often cattle or sheep can be raised to maturity on grass from pasture land that is unsuitable for any other kind of farming. If it's unsuitable for any other kind of farming, then maybe you make your meat and it's not hurting anybody, because what it's just going to sit there. It says unsuitable for any other kind of farming. That seems like a potential problem, right? Maybe meat will still be okay because it doesn't take away from grain. I'm going to keep that answer open. There certainly could be something better. C, if a grain diet is supplemented with protein derived from non-animal sources, it can have nutritional value equivalent to that of a diet containing meat. This is actually one of the things I thought about. I was like, oh, wait, yeah, meat has more protein than grain does. But this only makes the idea that it's going to become morally unacceptable more likely, right? Like if you can get your nutrition from grain, then stop eating meat. You selfish jerk, right? Whatever you want to say to those people in the future who are eating meat. D, although prime farmland near metropolitan areas is being lost rapidly to suburban development. I'm already a little skeptical of this because this is just talking about a subset of farmland. We could reverse this trend by choosing to live in areas that are already urban. We could. Will we? I guess this raises the possibility that we won't lose as much farmland, but we're still growing as a population. Yields are still leveling off. I don't think this is as good as B. B is like, no matter what you do, you can make meat and it won't hurt anybody else. So I'm going to keep B and get rid of D. E, nutritionists agree that a diet composed solely of grain products is not adequate for human health. Ahaha. Okay, this is kind of tempting, but I see what they're doing here. They're saying that a diet composed solely of grain. That's not what the argument is about. The argument is about consuming meat. If you stop consuming meat, that doesn't mean you now consume solely grain. Right? Like, this is kind of a false dichotomy. Even if a solely grain diet is not adequate, you could supplement it with non-grain things. I don't know what like carrots. That has to be like non-grain, right? So I'm just trying to think here. But the point here is that it doesn't mean now, oh, you have to go back and eat meat. So this isn't the answer. The answer is B. All right. Questions on this one? Radina.
You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep.
Yeah, so I have a quick question. So I managed to disprove all of them and only B was left, but I still don't understand why B is right.
Well, yeah. What are your thoughts? You were going to say something?
No, I just, like on the test, I would pick B and move on since I managed to disprove the rest, but I don't really understand why B is right.
Well, I think the idea here is that in the future, it's going to be morally unacceptable to eat meat because meat is taking away from other more productive uses of grain. Right? And so you're mad at people who are eating meat. You're like, hey, you're being wasteful. There's too many of us on this planet. And what B comes in and says, wait, hold on. We can actually make meat without hurting anything else because that farmland can't be used for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't necessarily, it's not proving that it will be acceptable to eat meat. It's just putting a crack in the armor and saying it's not necessarily going to be unacceptable because maybe people can make meat without interfering with any other sorts of farm production.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions on this one? Philip.
There we go. And just to clarify what you were saying before, C is incorrect, where it talks about the grain diet being supplemented with protein from non-animal ones, because that one's not as strong as B because it's talking about how you could make grain use ethical and nutritious, but it's not directly referring to how meat for sure becomes morally unacceptable. Is that why C is not?
I would say I would go further, Philip. To me, C is actually a strengthener. C says, yeah, you can make a grain diet totally work for people, so it's going to make a meat diet even more unacceptable.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Ariana.
Hi. Okay, so I got this question right, and I do understand the answer.
Yeah.
But when I was initially trying to predict an answer, I thought like maybe eating meat isn't morally unacceptable because let's say like eating that 1 pound of meat sustains you longer than if you were to eat grain. Would that also weaken the argument? Like the duration of like sustenance between like grain and meat?
What does it say in the passage? It says 16 pounds of grain could feed many more people than could a pound of meat. But could it be possible that you've fed these people, but they are sustained for a matter of 8 minutes, whereas that pound of meat sustains them for the next 3 days? or one person for 3 days, or however many people you feed with the meat. Yeah, I guess that's an open possibility. More people are fed, but it's essentially meaningless food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like that could be an answer if the LSAT wanted to insert something like that, because that's not disproven yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, Cassandra.
Is it only wrong because of the word solely?
Is that the only thing that makes it wrong? That's a tough question to answer. If we drop the word solely, nutritionists agree that a diet composed of grain products is not adequate for human health.
Then that would make it not immoral because you need to survive, so you got to eat something other than grain.
Yeah, but that's all that it's saying right now too, is you got to eat something other than grain. If you say a diet composed of grain products is not adequate for human health, that kind of suggests that even if you have other things, I'm not sure exactly what that. It sounds to me like that's saying, okay, well, if you have a diet with grains in it, then that's not going to be adequate, which means you need other things. That's still the same problem as eat. Does the other thing have to be meat? Not necessarily.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay.